Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the final Sunday of 2020. We have passed the solstice and the light has begun to return, and we can look forward to a time when we can gather together in our beloved meeting house once more. I'm Peter Van Erp, and I serve as worship associate this morning. On behalf of myself and our guest worship leaders, Aubrey Atwater and Elwood Donnelly, I welcome you to this service. We will do our best to bring you light and warmth and hope. To everyone near and far, welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Providence, where we strive to love beyond belief. Our guest worship leaders, folk singers, and multi-instrumentalists Aubrey Atwater and Elwood Donnelly present American and Celtic songs with unique vocal harmonies, guitar, mountain dulcimer, Irish whistle, harmonica, banjo, and more. Aubrey and Elwood are longtime members of the First Unitarian Church of Providence, as well as part of 2 theological action and contemplation groups. They have spent many years performing in and visiting churches throughout the United States and beyond. For 25 years, Aubrey and Elwood hosted a monthly community spiritual gathering, Church in the Barn, in Foster, Rhode Island, a community experience which they will forever treasure. Married since 1989 by the late Reverend Tom Alburn, Aubrey and Elwood have performed widely in the United States, and the 13 recordings received international airplay.
Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see you out there. I am going to just do a few things. This is going to be recorded. And let us prepare our hearts and mind for worship. And we begin with a song from Jean Ritchie called Winter Grace. This is the time so well we love, the time of all the year, when winter calls with chilling breath for fireside and good cheer, the time for man and beast to stand and feel the season turn, to watch the stars for secret signs and God's true lessons learned. A time when the corn is all unto the barn, the old cow's breaths of frosty wine, and the morn upon the fallow silver shine. When cold morning's radiant star shines over hill and plain, we know anew that little babe is born to us again. One in its own place, we bow our hearts and thank our God for winter rest and grace. A time when the corn is all unto the barn, the old cow's breaths of frosty wine, born upon the fallow field of silver shine. And Peter, back to you for the chalice lighting.
Sorry, I was on mute. I invite all of you at home to take this moment to light your own chalice if you have one, and to join me in saying the words of our chalice lighting. This light burns also in our hearts, and it lights our path towards harmony and justice and hope for all.
Well, good morning again, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to take a little peek into the gallery and say good morning to all of you, friends from the First Unitarian Church in Providence, and then friends that we've made all over the country and some beyond. And it's really lovely to see you all joining us for what is going to be a very special program of songs and pieces we've written, starting with this one. There was a program that you could have downloaded from the First Unitarian website, and the title of this one is called Berries in a Tiny Plastic Container. And I'm going to show you the container. The title of this whole service is Appeal, Gratitude, Delight, Lament, or Help, Thanks, Wow, This Stinks. And we'll talk more about what that means. But first, this story. It was her night to bring the dinner. She brought a homemade chicken pot pie, fresh green salad, and still warm chocolate chip cookies. She stood at the kitchen counter and unpacked the food quickly, explaining how to heat the pie as she handed us homemade salad dressing. She wasn't allowed to stay and chat. Just drop off the food, the bereavement team instructed. Don't linger. The family is overwhelmed, exhausted, confused. Your job is to just bring food. She was about to leave, but then reached into the bottom of the paper bag for a tiny plastic container. Oh, and these are for the salad, she said. Fresh blackberries. And then she left. The food was delicious. We felt so cared for, so loved by that thoughtfully crafted and delivered meal. I kept that little container in a kitchen drawer. Every time I see it, I'm right back in that moment in my mother's tiny kitchen, remembering that kindness from a now nameless, faceless church volunteer. Funny how we cherish quirky little objects and the memories they evoke. You'd think remembering that moment would bring up the trauma of a stunning loss, but no, instead, every time I see it with the blue lid, I think of that kind woman who just did a simple thing one day, leaving a little object that brings a ping of connection and comfort every time I see it. What is prayer? In the world's religions and spiritual practices and throughout time, prayer is everywhere with many iterations. There are remarkable similarities as well as many variations in how humans pray. Types of prayer across societies and history include petition, which I think is what pops into our minds first. Wishes, favors, bargains, asking for healing, protection, care, well-being, wealth. Intercession, praying to a deity, communicating with the divine on behalf of oneself or another. Corporate prayer is when we pray together. Some prayers are for special worship, adoration, blessings, praise, dedications, consecrations. Imprecation is a creepier kind of prayer, a curse, wishing something bad to happen to somebody. Some prayers are confessions, asking for forgiveness, pardon, repentance. And we probably all have prayers of thanksgiving, gratitude. There are surely more kinds of prayer, but you get the idea. How we pray and the content of our prayers have everything to do with what we believe. Prayer can be memorized, read, improvised, chanted, sung, written for special occasions, silent and contemplative, incanted, spoken in tongues. Ceremonies, devotional acts. Just mute when you need to, okay? Ceremonies, devotional acts, and physical objects used in prayer include amulets, spells, magic, sitting like a pretzel, singing, libations, processions, graces, dances, mantras, bowing, swaying, kneeling, anointing with oil, ringing a bell, burning incense, lighting a candle, facing specific directions, making the sign of a cross, closing eyes, opening eyes, standing, lying on the floor, washing of the feet, washing of the hands, folding hands, holding hands, laying on of hands, sacrifices, counting beads, mandalas, pilgrimages, deep breathing, special sounds, fasting, eating. According to author Anne Lamott, we humans have three essential prayers: help, thanks, and wow.
I can't get it.
You got it up there. It'll pop out soon.
No, it won't.
I have to mute people. Hold on a second.
I've been doing everything I can think of.
You need to mute it all, okay? All right. I just muted everybody. Couldn't find it.
And you click on where it says her.
Let's do it again. There we go.
No, it won't. Because the camera, now I don't know what I did to the,
Excuse me for a minute, folks. Yeah, okay, I think that muted everybody. I don't know why it won't do it sometimes when I press the button. All right, I'm gonna back up for a minute to get back in the spell of my fabulous story.
not responding. So I can't even close this.
Okay, wait, hold on. I don't know why I can't mute these folks. So folks, I need you to mute. Everybody make sure you're muted. I can hear one person. Let me just see. Mute all. That's funny. I muted all. And it, okay, I think we're good. I don't hear them now. Do I hear them? Okay. We can expect odd technical moments in this era of history for sure. So I'm just gonna wait a minute. I wanna make sure we're good. I still feel like I hear things. I don't know why I can't mute them. There we go. That's the way to do it. Yeah, Elwood, you can always scroll this way too. Okay, folks, I'm back. So we're talking about all the ways people pray in the world. According to author Anne Lamott, we humans have three essential prayers: help, thanks, and wow. Our good friend Reverend Kent Gilbert in Berea, Kentucky adds one more prayer. This stinks. Actually, he used a stronger word. An acknowledgement and lamentation of what is terrible and cannot be fixed, often entailing a lot of swear words. You know, like when you can't mute people in Zoom in a church service. Kent also said in a recent conversation that I also had with his wife, Unitarian minister Deanna Hultgren, that for him, prayer is connection to the divine where we are deeply present, open to that which is holy and bigger than the current moment, crossing thresholds from one reality to another, connecting to a wider love, authentically, with our real, joyful, despondent, happy, funny, grieving, stressed out, fractured selves, steeped in our real feelings. The best prayers help us soften and connect us to this divine love and to each other. I also queried my husband, Elwood, one evening. He's a big fan of prayer. He spoke of prayer as a way to communicate with a higher power and with all the people we don't know. Prayer for him is not necessarily asking for anything. He also mentioned the type of lament that Kent spoke of, the what the hell kind of prayer. Frustration, injustice, like when Elwood was struggling so hard for years as a young single parent, and then one winter they ran out of oil. The prayer at that point is simply, seriously? As we struggle to understand the point, the lesson, the message, in prayer, he also said, because we have the presence of a higher power, we have the comfort and reassurance that we are not alone, even if the problem at hand is not fixable. Thirdly, Elwood pondered out loud a concept we have all probably asked. What right do we have to ask for anything? Especially if people are asking God for opposite things at the same time, like a farmer asks for rain on the same day a festival organizer asks for a sunny day. Who gets what they want? A few years ago, I went through a phase where I asked anyone I could, how do you pray? It's such a personal question. And I got some fascinating answers, which led me to recognize that much of my life, the profound, the mundane, the angry, the hurt, the joyful, the broken, is a constant stream of prayers. All right, and now a song. Make sure I have the right dulcimer for this. I hope all is going okay. Somebody wrote special prayer for computer issues. That was one of the what the hell prayers for me.
Right.
All right, so let me just back up a little bit. This is a song Elwood wrote called The Coxswain, and I love this song. Some of the songs that I don't totally know what the words are about right away, that's a beautiful type of prayer to me. Because we can listen over and over again and ponder what those words are about. Okay, ready?
I am a rolling stone, I am a lock and chain, I am the boat you row that brings you home again. I am a decent sort, the kind you might forget, and though you know your way, I am your safety net. It's time you learn to wake up the ghost in you. We are the ones who believe the most in you. Rally round, muster up, and send for relief. There is a time to live, there is a time to die, there is a time to dance, and a time to cry. I always try and find a little grain of peace, and let my feelings show, and let my love increase. There'll come a day when we'll forgive ourselves. That ghost we liberate will outlive ourselves. Float away, let the coxswain take over for a while. I am a rolling stone, I am a lock and chain, I am the boat you row that brings you home again. I am a decent sort, the kind you might forget, and though you know your way, I am your safety net.
Alrighty, over to you, Peter, for joys and sorrows. Always one of my favorite parts of the service.
Yes, now is the time in our service when we share the joys and sorrows of our congregation. From Sarah, a candle of joy and remembrance in loving memory of my husband, Tom Gleason, who died on Christmas Day 5 years ago. This is the first Christmas since then I've spent without our children and grandchildren, and I'm particularly grateful for my connection now with First Unitarian. And a personal candle of joy, I would like to add a note of joy that my dear friends, Tom McGinn and Kristen Stone, invited me to their wedding on the morn of Christmas Eve. After only 27 years together, they gathered friends and family to celebrate on the pedestrian bridge in the warm sun. And back to you.
Great, thank you, Peter. And now for our prayer portion of the service, Elwood is going to read a poem by what our friend Kelly Smith refers to as the de facto poet of the Unitarian Church, the wonderful writer, the late Mary Oliver.
I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the possum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflowers, the old black oak growing older every day. I know I can walk through the world, along the shore or under the trees, with my mind filled with things of little importance, in full self-attendance, a condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze, maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep, maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why, and yet why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wren singing. What could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air.
I love that. I love her use of the word drenched. The wren singing was positively drenched with enthusiasm. That's probably my favorite line in there. So now it's time for silent meditation, and I've always loved group silence. I was fortunate enough to have been educated in a Quaker school through my high school years, and we had meeting for worship every Wednesday for 45 minutes. Imagine a couple hundred 9th through 12th graders sitting in silence for 45 minutes. And it was a really wonderful way to grow up. And I learned, despite how chatty I am, I learned how to be quiet. And I thank my education for that. So let's do a tiny version of that, literally 1 or 2 minutes of silence. And Elwood and I will not mute ourselves to prove that we can be silent. So
You can actually do it.
a little time of silent meditation. I could do that for a long time. I just love that. Here's another story. For about 10 years, I've been a therapeutic musician at Hasbro Children's Hospital in Providence, where I bring music to bedsides and playrooms in about half a dozen clinics and floors. Some particularly profound moments take place in the Tomorrow Fund Clinic, where children are treated for cancer and blood disorders. There's a palliative care team there called CHIPS that I interact with sometimes. I love these people. The head physician is a beautiful, kind, musical woman, and we've had some lovely brief jam sessions over the years. The CHIPS team works with the unspeakable, critically ill, and dying children and their families. I was in the Tomorrow Fund Clinic one morning a couple years ago, having a time with a bunch of kids getting chemo, their siblings, parents, and grandparents. We were singing songs like, "Wake up, you sleepyheads, it's time to find the cows," and then pretending to fall asleep mid-song. The littlest kids were going nuts, laughing and yelling, "Wake up!" And some were joining in with colorful plastic instruments shaped like fruit, or Bert and Ernie maracas, or little toy xylophones. It was a kind of controlled chaos that I am allowed to create there. It's never lost on me how hard these children's lives may be, that they are in pain, that they and their families suffer in ways many of us cannot fathom. The prayer is in the camaraderie in that playroom, the fun we have despite a quiet song, a young mother's tears, perhaps two families helping each other, saying things like, "You got this." One day I saw that beautiful doctor standing near the door, talking to a child's mother. The child came to the doctor and leaned against her white coat with such trust, and the doctor put her thumb on the child's forehead. You know, that place between your eyebrows, which has so much meaning across culture as far as blessings or anointing or acupressure. And she gently pressed and held it there for a moment. Just watching that in that hectic clinic sent a wash of peace over me, made me wonder what it was like for that child and mother at that moment, and the doctor. Such a beautiful, short gesture of love and support and prayer. In a flash, it was over. If any of you have spent time in a hospital, you know there are many interruptions, sounds, people, movement. I wondered later if anyone else besides me, the doctor, the child, the mother, saw that, when just for a moment, time and motion came to a divine halt. Peter, I'm passing it over to you for the offertory.
Thank you. We turn now to our moment for giving for the support of this institution we love. We ask that you consider what it means to you to be part of this unique spiritual community, and to consider the need to keep First You strong during these challenging times. And we ask you to consider the possibilities for social transformation that we together are awakening as we renew ourselves in struggle. Please give generously and accept our thanks for all you give, all you do, and all you are. And in the mundane, we have included a link for online donations in the Zoom chat. Back to you.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Yep, I just put it in the chat again. I figure you can't put that in the chat too much, because I think when people sign in, they don't always see the beginning of the chat. I want to do one of my favorite prayers. It is called Resignation, or My Shepherd Shall Supply My Need. I'm just going to make sure I'm in good tune for this. And Isaac Watts adapted this in his book from 1719. Excuse me for a minute. I just got to make sure. Sorry, did you just drop something? Oh, that was your tuner. I just want to make sure everybody's muted. Excuse me for a second. Because I can hear sounds and I want to make sure we're good. So folks, always make sure you're muted because sometimes we could just hear little sounds and it creates little glitches. So I think we're good. Yeah, okay. All right, where were we? Resignation. Based on Psalm 23 that Isaac Watts adapted in 1719. That was a while ago. And it just has some stunning lines, the kinds of lines that you might spend years thinking about. My shepherd will supply my need. Jehovah is his name. In pastures fresh, he makes me feed beside the living stream. He brings my wandering spirit back when I forsake his ways. He leads me for his mercy's sake in paths of truth and grace. When I walk through the shades of death, thy presence is my stay. One word of thy supporting breath drives all my fears away. Thy hand in sight of all my foes doth still my table spread. My cup of blessings overflows. Thine oil anoints my head. The sure provisions of my God attend me all my days. Oh, may thy house be mine abode, and all my work be praised. There would I find a settled rest, while others go and come. No more a stranger, nor a guest, but like a child at home. Peter.
And this is the moment where I give our announcements or invitations. I only have one thing to announce. Next Sunday, our service will be live streamed from the Meeting House. Pardon me. The Reverend Robert Peltier will be the worship leader, and the subject of his sermon will be that now is the time to make our resolve in cultivating happiness as a spiritual practice. For the link to the live stream, please go to the First U website.
All right, am I back? I'm trying to mute people sometimes as we go along.
Did you mute Peter?
Yeah, I might have muted Peter. Were you done, Peter? I'll take that as a yes. I have another story for you. I want to take a moment. I just want to look at you and see how everybody's doing. Give me a wave. Hi, everybody. Hi, I see Kelly and Sam. Nice to see you. Great. Lots of friends from church and from beyond church. Great to see so many familiar faces this morning. Yeah, and please make sure you're muted. I don't know why it happens in Zoom, but people just get unmuted for some unknown reason. So that's why I keep pausing so that we don't have those extra sounds. Here's another story I wrote this fall. It's called Shoes. Kim and I met outdoors in Providence recently on a balmy November day for one of our thought-provoking conversations. Elwood sent boots along to give to Steve, something he does from time to time. They wear the same size. Elwood likes shoes. He has lots of them. They come and go. Me, I could care less, except that they are black and don't hurt my feet. When I was a little kid in Barrington, we went to Baloo's in the town center. I remember how that metal sizer felt underneath my socks, and the shoehorn the salesman would use to slip on leather-soled school shoes with laces. I didn't think much of it. In my family, we never wanted for anything material. We lived with an unself-conscious understanding that there was enough to wear, eat, do, and all in that regard was well. Not so much for Elwood or my friends. That evening in a four-way text, Steve sent an adorable photo of just his feet, happily wearing the boots. Elwood's reply, I should tell you why I'm so fascinated with shoes. When I was a kid, I got just one pair each year, and they were for school, church, and play. If they wore out or got too small, tough noodles. Steve wrote, we polished our shoes every Saturday night for church in the morning. And yes, the same school, play, church shoes. Elwood, right. So for a long time as an adult with more money, if I wanted a pair of shoes, I just got them. Not so much anymore, though, after all these years. Guess I've moved on. Aubrey, eerily silent. Kim, later, just to me. I love the stories about childhood shoes and have been thinking about how you and Elwood came from such different backgrounds and have created this beautiful life together and are able to afford as many pairs of shoes as he wants. Maybe shoes are a prayer in remembrance of hardship, of deprivation, of accomplishment. And we're doing the angels part next. So, in my humble opinion, a very nice segue into this next song, which was written by our friend Daniel Dutton in rural Kentucky, Somerset, Kentucky. And he wrote this about his mother, who has been gone for about 10 years now. And she was a wonderful mother figure and role model for me and Elwood. She grew up very poor in rural Kentucky, and she was one of 13 kids. And there was one thing she wanted in her childhood. I have to just retune. She wanted, every winter, she wanted the part in the winter play at school of the angel, and she never got the part. And she would talk about it, and we knew her for about 20 years, and this was a topic that came up, and she would talk about it. And she had this theory that she wasn't cute enough, or she wasn't blonde enough, or she didn't have pretty clothes, or she just had a lot of ideas as to why. But it was a type of longing that followed her through her whole life. And when she was an old woman, her son wrote her this song called The Angel's Part. And it's funny because we would play it for her sometimes. It's such a beautiful song, you'll see. But she would still say, I still want that part. Fairies haste to an orphan girl, refused the angel's part in a winter play. How she dreamed, no one could see. Mortals are at best half blind, most of humankind are dull and cruel. What's an angel anyway, but a ring of light and a pair of wings? Those are easy things to give. Hurry while she lives. She's as good as any are, though coarsely dressed, and perhaps by now she's old. Bring her fairy gold. She is clad in a robe of white and travels through the sky at night. She will be a star to lead the wise men on to the place where every child is born. I guess we can add longing to our list of types of prayer. This next story is called The White Noise Machine. What a stressful year this has been. I don't know about you, but I am by nature an anxious and hyper-vigilant person. It's probably partly why I get a lot done. I grew up with a fair amount of instability and loss, which I think probably a lot of us in this group have, and human beings in general do. Throughout my life, I've found solid ground through music, introspection, relationships, nature, Elwood, among other things. And 2020 has actually not been our worst year in the last few years by a lot. Our family has endured some big challenges and losses since 2017, and I have to say that First Unitarian Church has been deeply supportive to us. For now, if we can stay safe and help others, Elwood and I have been finding silver linings. But nonetheless, there is a side of me that is generally a wreck, and I've been on high alert for years. I'm often ready to step in and save the day, take charge, help, fix, whatever it takes, as if that is always a thing and possible. I bet some of you are nodding right now. When things shut down in March, I was exhausted. As it turns out, stay-at-home orders offered up a sabbatical I never would have taken, granting this homework-loving introvert the luxury of time to develop music, write, ponder, cook, reinvent, process, mend, heal. The days for us are like the movie Groundhog Day, where in this case, I wake up each morning and see another delightful blank spot on my calendar. I am never unaware of the suffering and loss around us. And yet I hope that you, like us, have found some good, some silver linings during this wretched time. For many years, I have used a white noise machine at night. Maybe some of you do this too. Imagine, if you will, a hyper-creative, anxious person who is often too busy and doesn't always know how to regulate, a person who takes a piping hot shower every night just before bed to settle down. Imagine this hyper, way too busy, very clean person worried about family and work and friends, the state of the world, politics, and maybe a lot more introverted and socially anxious than she was ever willing to admit before. Imagine there's this external reason why many, many things stopped happening. And this very anxious, overstimulated, alert, clean person suddenly caught a break and didn't do so many things, or hang out with so many people, or have so many conversations, or have so many work problems like this person not getting back about details, or that person saying one thing and doing another. And then imagine this shutdown, pause thing happening for so long that slowly, ever so slowly, she started to calm down. And then one night, after about 10 years of using a loud sound machine by her bed to cancel out the noise in her head and in the world, she went to turn it on. And as her fingers started to press the button, she thought, my God, I can't stand that thing. It's so obnoxious. I'd rather just hear the room and the silence. And all the buzzing in her head, the high-pitched tinnitus in her right ear, the sounds of traffic, the din of TV in the other room, the heater, the wind, occasional voices of people walking by. It wasn't that bad. She didn't mind. And since that abrupt and astonishing moment, at least for now, that's how she goes to sleep at night. Christ Child Lullaby. So we will sing you an old Christmas song. Elwood and I always have this discussion every year. Are you allowed to do Christmas songs right after Christmas? And we say yes. We have about a week. You need that one with two. Yeah. We have three different guitars. For you guitar players, we're in 3 different tunings here. So the Christ Child Lullaby has a beautiful Alleluia chorus, so feel free to sing along. This is an old Scottish Celtic language song that was translated to English in the 19th century. Just put that wherever you need it. You want to put it here?
my pride, my treasure, oh, my wonder new and pleasure, oh, you are my love, my darling, you, unworthy I of you. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Your mild and gentle eyes proclaim the loving heart with which you came, no but a tender babe thou art, with boundless gifts of grace. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. And though you are the King of all, they send you to the manger stall, where at your feet they all shall fall and glorify the King. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Oh dear, the rain that softly falls. Oh dear, the wind that pulls the trees. Oh sweet, the night that holds your name. The graces all grow up with me. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
The next little story is called In a Driveway. We were standing in the driveway on Hill Street for the last time. Anna started her car, packed with small appliances, cast iron pans, boxes of food, clothes, some still from her frantic exit from college. And Tim, older, already an adjunct professor, was getting ready to leave in his New York City-sized Mini. We had completed the final pass through the 4 levels. Construction-sized plastic bags were everywhere. Canning jars spilled and a few broken on the porch. castaway plywood furniture out with the trash, free signs on a couple of bikes. The chaos was still palpable. It was only May. She had left the world, sitting on the front stairs in the early hours of January 26th, waiting for help. The next phases would involve a junkman, professional cleaners, staging by the realtor. I said, "Before we leave, would you like to say some kind of prayer?" No, they both scoffed nearly in unison. I laughed. It was okay, worth a try. We stood awkwardly for a moment, looking at our cars, the narrow driveway, the busy road. It was always so tricky to leave that place. You took your life in your hands. I said, "Be careful when you back out." We stood a little longer, hesitating. Tim said, "Mom used to be so funny when we were leaving to go somewhere. I remember once she was wearing that raincoat she had, the one made from recycled plastic water bottles. Oh my God, any chance she got, she would say, 'Guess what my raincoat is made of?' And we were like, 'We know, Mom, recycled plastic water bottles.'" Once she had that raincoat on and we were both leaving at the same time, and she marched into the road, stopped traffic, and violently waved us safely out. What a nut. We laughed, imagining her in the street with her water bottle raincoat. She had an endearingly directive personality, the kind of mother or sister whose love was ferocious, at times embarrassing. The kind of mother who read all the Harry Potter books out loud at bedtime for years. We stood there again, pausing. We could see her out there, alive as ever, irritating motorists, the water bottle raincoat swishing feistily. Another pause, some hugs, and we were safely out of the driveway in our separate cars, never to return to that place. The house would sell in 2 months. I talked to Anna a few days later after that parting, and we both agreed we had said our prayer after all. Another one of my favorite moments in the Unitarian services and other services at churches over the years is the doxology, or the Old Hundredth. One of the things Elwood and I have been very fortunate to have been doing all these years in our about 30 years of travels, we've been to many, many churches. We've played in them, we've visited them, we've done services, and it's such an education to go to so many churches throughout the United States and beyond. We've been to many Unitarian churches. And this, as some of you know, this is the Unitarian version of this very short song and an oft recycled melody. I love this melody. So we were giving it a new spin. We figure you're all muted, so if you sing along, do whatever you want. It's going to be a little different than the usual way. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of faith and hope arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung. Through every land, by every tongue. Amen. And one more short story for you, and some reflections. This one's called The Rudder. Andrew and Raoul were some of the only people we saw last spring. We sat on the deck and talked with masks, awkward with the new protocol. Andrew had brought me something he found in his mother's basement, an old rudder. It was big and white and had David H. Atwater Jr. painted on it, and his signature A logo. Maybe Dad used it at his nautical consulting office in Warren, maybe at his ship store in Barrington. Maybe it was from one of his boats. No one will ever know. It didn't look familiar, and it was not a surprising gift. I was a kid who grew up with a ship's steering wheel and a steam engine in our living room. Scrimshaw, sailors' valentines, ship models, seascape paintings, compasses and barometers on the walls. Dad was a sailor, a fisherman, and a curator. He was also deeply supportive of my academic and creative pursuits, nurturing wonder and empowerment far beyond the scope, I believe, of an average father born in 1920 to a daughter. We had a beautiful bond. He lived until he was almost 92. To some, a rudder might seem like an odd gift, but in our family, a treasure. It represented, among other things, our collective love of the sea. Elwood kept saying all summer, "What do you want to do with that?" And I kept saying, "I don't know, just leave it on the deck by the door. I like it." And a month later, Elwood would say, "What do you want to do with that?" And I would say, "Just leave it there. I like it." In the fall, we had work done on the house, and the rudder was moved into the yard. I had forgotten about it. And when I found it, to my horror, the paint was starting to peel. So I brought it inside. Elwood moved it into the basement. I moved it back upstairs in the kitchen and said, "Let's just leave it here for now. I like it." In November one evening, I was watching TV and this thought popped into my mind randomly. Does that ever happen to you? A memory or a profound revelation, a place you once were, like someone's kitchen, a thing someone said to you long ago, something you didn't even know you remembered just pops into your mind, like a visitation in the midst of a mundane moment, even with all kinds of noise in your head or in the room. I was just lounging there watching TV, and it's like my father, who had been a pilot and a celestial navigator in World War II, finally got impatient and said, "That rudder was a message from me, from the beyond, to help you with your navigation, to say, stay the course, stay the course," he said to me in that noisy TV room as I lay on the couch in my pajamas a full 6 months after my cousin Andrew had brought over the rudder. "Stay the course," Dad told me. "Okay, Dad," I thought silently. "Thanks. I will." Is action prayer? I think this time in history is teaching us a lot about who we are not, what, how, and who we love, what, how, and who we don't love so much, what we want to hold on to, what we want to let go of. We have been pared down, stripped. Do you like what you see? What do you pray about? While prayer may be a kind of crossing over into authenticity and divine presence, we may not always remain there as often as we like. Mostly we return to what we think of as reality. But regardless of whether we have a perfect state of mind and heart, how can we live out our prayers and desires? How is life a prayer? Is action prayer? To what and to whom are we in service? Where is our stewardship? Our communities, homes, work, society, our planet, our loved ones? I always like to talk about action. Better times cannot come fast enough. When they do, let us always keep active, vigilant, asking ourselves, what is our call? How do we shore up our faith with action, our petitions with action, our repentance with action, our thanksgiving with action? Speak, challenge, build, march, write, call, donate, read, risk, think, grow, run, wrestle, campaign, vote, protect, defend, help, feed, plant, dance, laugh, sing, wait, rest, be happy. I conclude with a quote from Jewish ethical teachings. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it.
You are the church, and so am I. We carry church around with us and in us. It's your faith, the one you've been working on since childhood, perhaps even before you were born. Every one of us has a right to the kingdom without needing to jump through fire created by others. Each of us has the right to feel comfortable with our faith, and each of us deserves to be happy. Providence Unitarian minister and friend, our own late Tom Alburn, ended his services for many years with this Buddhist proverb and other thoughts. May God walk between you and harm in all the empty places you must go. In the evening of life, you will be judged by love. May all beings be happy.
And now we have come to the time in our service to extinguish our chalices. We carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Thank you, Peter. And folks, we have one more song as our postlude, and we thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to see so many friends and familiar faces. Thanks to the First Unitarian Church of Providence for inviting us to do this service. And there will be a coffee hour on Zoom after this, and I'm going to paste that information again. I have it in the top of the chat, but I'm going to put it in the chat again. And I was just making sure there was no need for a password or anything like that. If anybody has any trouble logging on, feel free. Oops, I just did.
Aubrey, I put it in.
You did?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
good.
the usual one. I don't think we need a password.
Okay, good. All right. And yes,
I'll
folks.
be there as soon as I
Okay.
can get there.
Thanks, Nori. All right, everybody. So we'll see you at coffee hour at the other Zoom meeting, and we're going to finish up with Bright Morning Stars. And again, our love to all of you. Thank you for joining us today, and thanks to the First Unitarian Church of Providence for inviting us to do the service. What was that note? Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul.
And where are our dear fathers?
Oh, where are our dear fathers?
They're down in the valley of praying.
Day is a breaking in my soul. And where our dear mothers, oh, where our dear mothers, they've gone up to heaven a-shouting. Day is a breaking in my soul.
And how can I be lonely.
When you are ever
near me, such wondrous love surrounds me. Day is a breaking in my soul.
bright morning stars are rising.
Bright morning stars are rising.
Bright morning stars are rising.
Day is a breaking in my soul.
Thanks again for joining us, folks. I'm going to put my email address in here in case you want to be in touch about anything, questions, comments for me and Elwood. And we will see you
At coffee hour.
at coffee hour.
Thank
Bye.
you so
And
much.
again, much love to you all.